So you're looking for a lifetime partner, someone you hope will match your expectations. But the question is, what do you do when you notice certain traits in this person that makes you feel insecure, that makes you feel stressed, that makes you feel doubtful even? Even though this person exhibits some of the key attributes that you desire, the question is, should you push forward in a relationship hoping that she will change, hoping that he will change? My name is Reverend Victor G. Cohen, and you are tuned into Now Word. I've got a word that I'm strongly confident is going to bless you. Now, you may find yourself in a situation where you do not need this information because you're probably already happy and settled in your relationship, but you might know somebody who might be going through a situation like this, and you've been trying to talk to them and just share some things with them as to what they need to think about, how they need to focus and perceive and engage this relationship, and you may not have had the language to communicate with them. I want to encourage you to do two things. First of all, I want to encourage you to like this video, but also share it with that person, because you just never know how you might be a blessing to them. Stay tuned. So as I preface this presentation, let's say you are praying for a lifetime partner. You've taken the time to seek the Lord's direction. You've drawn up a realistic, as best as you understand, a realistic list of expectations, right? And perhaps someone has shown up in your life, and this person seems to be exhibiting most of the key attributes on your list. But then you've noticed that they have a few that are not on your list, but they're exhibiting those traits that make you feel insecure, make you feel stressed, make you feel doubtful, make you feel worried or concerned about your overall well-being and the health and vitality of this relationship. The question is, what should you do? Now, being this decent person that you are, or at least that you know this person to be, I sense that it's oftentimes when people find themselves in a relationship like this is one thing I have observed in my years of ministry, right? That oftentimes it is this decent person who has this strong grace upon their life to always see good in other people, right? And so let's say you are this person. You are always looking, you always see the best in people. My question is, should you let this aspect of your personality drive you forward, push you into the relationship despite the seeming red flags that she or he might be exhibiting, again, on the hope that he will change, on the hope that she will change? Should you do that? Now, before going deep into this quickly, let me just lay some foundations that I believe are pivotal and quite important for this presentation. I want us to get a sense, a frame of how we're going to gauge this, how we're going to process what I'm about to share with you. It's so heavy, you don't want to miss this, all right? Now, first of all, here are the questions. Now, let's assume that you've come from a relationship that didn't work. You know that you do not have the gift of celibacy. You know that you ain't promising nobody you're going to spend the rest of your life single, right? You desire something of being in a romantic relationship, right? So here's the question. Number one, as we lay these foundations, have you assessed where your previous relationship failed? And most importantly, have you asked yourself how you may have contributed to how the relationship failed? You see, because in every conflict, no one person is entirely wrong. I know sometimes we don't like to hear this, particularly when we come from a relationship where the thing that led to the breakdown of that relationship was often very blatant, very bold, and very obvious. People saw the physical abuse, people saw the mental, the emotional abuse, right? They've seen all of those things. But the question is, even if the person contributed with evidence, 99.9% of the negativity that led to the demise of the relationship, the question is that 0.001%. Have you honestly assessed how you may have contributed to that? Now, why is this important? It is important because if you have not dealt with yourself on that level, chances are That little baggage could be like sand in your shoes. That if you take in the journey of another relationship, it may not only mess your foot up, but it could also mess the relationship down the road. So have you taken the time to assess where the relationship may have failed and what you personally may have done to contribute to it, even if the contribution was not intentional? Maybe it was based on immaturity. Maybe it was based on some unresolved issue from your childhood. Maybe it was they spill overs of rejection that you really haven't properly assessed and dealt with, that made you to be overly clingy to this person to the point that they felt like you were choking too tight. So now they pushed away and they walked away. Whatever that issue is, have you taken the time to assess how you may have contributed to the breakdown of that relationship? Foundation number 2 that also needs to be established: have you sought divine forgiveness? Have you sought divine forgiveness? Have you forgiven this person for where they have wronged you? Have you sought their forgiveness? But most importantly, have you forgiven yourself? Think about it. Now, when the subject of forgiveness is mentioned, it is not mentioned from the perspective of forgiving them for them. Yes, they benefit from the forgiveness because by reason of the fact that you no longer wish them evil, you're genuinely, sincerely concerned for their well-being. You genuinely hope that they prosper. You genuinely hope that it be well with them because you are comfortable in yourself. You are comfortable in your journey. You are aware of who God is to you, and you know that God is going to bless you on your path, right? So your forgiveness is not necessarily for them as it is for your sense of well-being, your sense of mental clarity, your sense of soundness of mind, and overall your sense of peace. Have you sought divine forgiveness? Have you forgiven the person? Have you made an attempt to ask their forgiveness? And sometimes I know it's hard because when you try doing this, sometimes people cut you off. They don't ever want to speak to you no more. They don't want to be bothered with you. But at least have you prayerfully considered giving it a thought to reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry for how I contributed to, the breakdown of this relationship. And most importantly, have you forgiven yourself? Because I understand that there are times when people in my line of ministry, in my years of experience, I have realized that there are some people who come out of a bad relationship and they dwell there. They take all of their energy focused on why they allowed themselves to ignore the red flags. Why were they not sensitive enough? Why did they not, listen to counsel? Why did they not make a determination? Why didn't they seem strong enough to move on when they found out that things weren't going to work? And so they stay there, and it's like they blame themselves. And sometimes there is merit in doing that. But the question is, you have to come to the place of forgiving yourself if you have to heal. So have you done that? The third foundation that also needs to be laid is this: have you made restitution where possible? Have you sought mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual recovery? Because again, coming out of a bad relationship, coming out of a relationship that didn't work, it will hurt us. It will wound us emotionally. It might wound us spiritually. Some of us even come out of relationships where physically we had scars. So the question is, have we sought to heal? And sometimes one of the greatest indicators that we have healed is the fact that we can be in our own company and enjoy doing what we love to do without feeling awkward, without feeling uncomfortable in our own company. Have you healed? Because if you haven't really healed, if you haven't really sought help, there is a possibility that even when the right person comes up, you might bleed on this person who did not cut you. And that's not mine. Somebody made that statement, but I totally agree with it. So have you healed? And then foundation number 4, have you built your capacity to improve your understanding of what you want in a relationship? What you want in a partner that is deeper than just a great sex appeal. That is deeper than just the fact that you want you both to look socially eye-catching. Nothing's wrong with that. That's deeper than, just what you like about this person. I mean, that's a mouthful, and I'm going to slow down so that you can better understand this. But the question is, have you really taken the time to improve your capacity to understand what you want in a relationship. What are you looking for in a relationship? What are you looking for in a partner that is greater, that has to have more depth than just a great sex appeal? I mean, so yeah, obviously sex appeal may have a great, maybe great, but if that is all there is to the relationship, what happens when you guys are not being intimate and not having sex? Do you have any other thing that you can bond over and connect over? All right. So what happens, if you guys look great, cool, and all in public, and everybody see that you guys look so smashing, and everybody wants to be like y'all, but in reality, there's no common interest. You guys can't gel. You can't jive. There's no place where you can laugh over silly stuff together. There's no place where you can respectfully disagree to agree. There's no place where you have a sense. You know in your heart of hearts that this person hears your disagreement. They're not listening to respond. They're listening to understand what you have to say. All right? So have you really built your capacity to know what you want in a relationship? And also to know that you can discern the difference between what you like about the person and whether you really like the person. Because this is also something critical and something very powerful that we need to think about. Oftentimes we like a lot of things about people, but we do not like them. But sometimes we can't even tell the difference. We like how they look. We like how tall they are. We like how they make us feel. We like the sense of pride we get to say that I'm dating this guy who is handsome or this lady who is attractive. We like their giftings, their talents, and their abilities, but we really may not even like them as a person. So can you tell the difference? Again, the question is, have you taken the time to build your capacity to know what you want in a relationship going forward, and what you want in a partner that is deeper than just a great sex appeal, deeper than just you both looking socially eye-catching, deeper than just what you like about the person? Do you guys have a common purpose? Do you guys have a visionary pursuit? Are you guys pursuing a vision that is not conflicting or competing, but rather that is complementing each other? Do you guys have a sense of commonality of values? What you value, is it the same thing that the person values? Is it a reality? And now with those issues that are stated, again, going back to the original question, right? So you're trusting God for a relationship. Let's get into this stuff real quick so I can be out of your way, right? So you're trusting God for a relationship. You've prayed about it. You have set your list of expectations. You have put it out there, and someone has come along, and maybe there are lots of things on your list that they are exhibiting. But now that there are certain elements not on your list that this person seems to be exhibiting, and I'm not just talking about those minor pet peeves, those minor annoyances. I'm talking about some fundamental issues that you are at this very stage of the relationship. You can sense that going down the road, this is going to be, or these are going to be problems. The question is, what should you do? Multiple choice. All right. Number one. Do you ignore the issue and hope that the person will change? Because after all, no one is perfect. So let me give them a pass, right? Nobody's perfect. I'm just going to ignore this and just keep going because, after all, nobody's perfect. Do you choose option A? Do you choose option B? Do you settle with the person even if the person doesn't change? Because, there is a saying in the Bible, that love is patient. So I'm going to have to be patient with this person because, again, nobody is perfect. So I'll just settle with the abuses. I'll just settle with those points of mistrust. I'll just settle with the fact that the person is already demonstrating infidelity right now at its early stage of the relationship. Do we choose option B because love is patient? Is that even a proper understanding of what love is? We'll dig into that pretty soon. Stay with me. Option C, do we intensify fasting and prayer? Because certain things can happen except by prayer and fasting. And so when you do a lot of prayer and a lot of fasting, this person must change at all costs. Is that the approach that you want to adopt? Fasting and praying, right? Option D, or do not proceed without a fair degree of confidence that whoever this person is, you can live with them for the rest of life. Option D says, I am not going to proceed until I have a fair degree of confidence that as this person is, and that as I have understood them, as I've interacted with them, despite all of these things that have been revealed, I'm confident, I'm settled in my heart that I can live with this person as is. That is, even if the person doesn't change who they are before me right now, it's someone I can live with. Well, let's look at a scriptural passage quickly because we're in our word. Let's look at a scriptural passage quickly and let's try to make some sense of these options, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Paul is talking about, he's addressing questions of marriage. I know I'm talking about, people you ain't married yet, but there are lots of lessons. Like someone said, if you wait to go to the battlefront before you learn how to fight, how to get trained, you may die. But if you get trained before you went to the battlefront, there's a high possibility that you might know how to protect yourself and you might survive, right? So the lessons that Paul gives here in this context for married couples can also teach some valid life lessons for people who are on the pathway to pursuing a relationship. Now he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, let's start reading from verse 15. Yet if the unbelieving one leaves, let him leave. The brother or sister, meaning the Christian, is not under bondage in such cases, but God has called us to peace. Verse 16, he says, for how do you know, O wife, O woman, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, O husband, whether you will save your wife? Now, let me do justice to this, right? I don't want to just do I see Jesus here, all right? I want to properly explain this text as quickly as I can. One of the questions that the Corinthian believers had was whether the fact that they were married to someone who was an unbeliever, whether they were being defiled in the relationship. You're married to the person, so you're sexually intimate with the person. And so they wanted to know whether being with this person is going to now contaminate and corrupt their spirituality. Because, Paul had mentioned what fellowship has light with darkness, the table of demons with the table of the Lord. He talks about all of those things. So now this may have created some sense of confusion. So in chapter 7, now he goes on to answer and address the question. And he's saying here, if you're married to this person who is not a believer, he says the fact that this person is not a believer does not contaminate or corrupt you and make you not to be saved. Why? Because that bed is undefiled. And that's where he even goes to say that even your children in that case, they are not undefiled, meaning they're spiritual, because your sense of spirituality goes on over to them in that case, and they are not undefiled in that marital union. All right. So that's a little bit of background of what's going on here. Now he ends up saying, however, you as a believer, let's say you do not want to leave this person, but the person is uncomfortable to be with you. He says you cannot force them to want to stay in the relationship. If they want to go, they have the freedom to go. Why? Because by you compelling them to try to stay, although they do not want to stay, could cause you to be in a state of the lack of peace. There might be constant conflict. There might be constant, noise and confusion here and there. And he says, no, God has called us to peace. Sometimes parting in peace is a more spiritual approach than maintaining a relationship that is where there is no peace and there is no respect for the presence of God. There's no respect for the principles of God's will. There's no respect for the person that you're in the relationship with. Sometimes parting in peace is a more Christian thing to do. I know society will often frown on people, who come out of who experience divorce and all of that. That's a different subject for a different day. But this is the background of what he's saying. And now he comes to verse 16, which is the key verse, and he says, how do you know? Because let's say you're saying, I don't want to leave this person, I don't want to lose my relationship. How do you know you will save your husband, woman? Man, how do you know you will save your wife? In other words, you see the words from the word sozo that is used there for save in the Greek text is the same word which can translate over into that word that means transform, right? Because when someone is saved, automatically the Spirit of God transforms their spirit. Their minds become transformed through their willingness to submit to discipleship. And then that transformation manifests on the outside as they walk in obedience to the Word of God and to the impulses of the Spirit of God as the Spirit of God moves them, right? So ultimately the word salvation leads to transformation. So how do you know you will transform the person? How do you know you will change this person? And thus, the question is, if the person chooses never to change, that's a big question that you need to ask. Can you live with him? Can you live with her for the rest of your life? Now, ignoring the red flags that may seem to be, popping up here and there, ignoring those red flags will cost you later, because it is expected that when we are dating, what do we tend to do? The reality is that we tend to we tend to present our best selves to the one we're trying to win. I know we can convince ourselves in our heads and we say to ourselves, yeah, but I'm being very real with you right now. I'm telling you, this is me, this is who I am. But truth be told, if we really want to be self-critical, we'll realize that we're really not putting our true selves forward. Most of the time, that's how it is. What we're really doing is presenting our best selves to the person. Now, why have we said it? I've said this because when we gain a license through the legitimacy of a relationship, so let's say the person agrees to start dating us, or let's say the person agrees now for us to go beyond the dating phase to courtship, or go beyond the courtship phase to the place of marriage, that license now has the tendency of causing us to be very raw and very real with ourselves. Because that's one of the things that marriage will do. One of the things that stability in a relationship will do, it will allow us to become comfortable. It allows us to come to the place where we can take off our mask and be our raw selves. So the question is, when we are this raw self, when we present this raw self, is that raw self that we are presenting to this person, or this raw self that this person is now presenting to us, can we live with that person? Okay? So, from the options that were listed, right? From the options that were listed, you say, well, option A would say, ignore the issues. But again, ignoring the issues will cost you later on. Ignoring the red flags will cost you later on. Let's look at option B. Option B says, settle with the person, even if the person doesn't change. Why? Because love is patient, right? That's what option B says, right? Now, love is patient, but does that imply settling for abuse? Again, 1 Corinthians 13 debunks that lie. It debunks it when it says love is not happy with evil. Love is happy with the truth. So if there is a manifestation of doing something that is evil, hurtful to your emotions, to your physical person, being there is not love. Accommodating or those abuses is not love. No, there is no biblical authority for it. Because again, the golden rule of scripture on love is simply this: can you allow this person to do to you what you're doing to them? That's the golden rule. Do unto others. So if this person is causing you emotional pain, would they want you to cause them emotional pain? If the answer is no, clearly you know that's not love. That is lust, and that is abuse. Now, option C says what? Pray and pray and pray. Intensify prayer and fasting, because the person must change, right? Now, check this out. Option C. So it means that I want to say this, that I am a fierce and I am a firm believer in prayer, and I absolutely believe in the power of fasting. But I believe sometimes these things can be abused and they can be misused to our own detriment. Because you see, prayer and fasting do not intend to change another person. Yes, it can influence the climate so that if the person will choose to make a change, they can do that. But prayer and fasting ultimately is intended to change us. The verse that was just read, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 16, that verse suggests that we do not have a guarantee that that kind of prayer will even transform this person. We have no guarantee. Again, how do you know whether you will save the person? How do you know whether the person will change? All right? How do you know? So then, spending all of your time looking at the red flags, looking at the things that are making you uncomfortable, looking at the things that are causing you doubt and stress, taking all of your time to still say, I will pray this person from their current life to a life of salvation, that prayer, just that spending all of your effort and your energy on praying that kind of prayer for this person because the person must change, that just might be a foundation for hurting yourself going forward. And then option D says, making sure that I do not make a decision, I do not make a determination until I have a relative fair degree of confidence that I can live with this person as is, right? Now, considering this person as is, can you live with them for a lifetime? Even if that person doesn't change, without compromising your sense of values? Can you live with this person for a lifetime without compromising your standards? And can you live with this person without compromising the vision that God has placed upon your life? Can you live with this person without compromising your integrity? And can you live with this person without compromising your sense of individuality? Okay? You have your sense of values. There are some things you said I would not do, but the fact that this person is now presenting some things to you that seems to be causing you to question your sense of value, then do you think that is the right way to go? If this person is causing you to question your standards, or they're making you they're causing you they are crossing boundaries in terms of the standards you set for yourself, then is that the way to go? Again, is that healthy? Is love happy, with evil? The answer is no. Is this person, the way they presented themselves, is this person causing you to compromise your vision of where God wants you to go with your life and what you believe God has called you to? Is this person and the way they've presented themselves causing you to compromise your integrity? Meaning, are you true to yourself about how this person makes you feel? Because that's what integrity is. If this person is making you to feel a certain kind of way, but you cannot be honest enough and open enough to be able to say to them, hey, I don't like this, you're making me feel a certain kind of way, and be okay with your ability to communicate this, do you think you want to progress and proceed into that relationship? And obviously, is this person making you question a sense of your individuality? Are you your real self when you're with this person? Is this person willing to mutually work with you, support you, so that you can become the version of who God wants you to be? Or is this person constantly trying to remake you in their own image, rather than encouraging you to be recreated, remolded into the image that Christ has set for you? You see, the verse that was read leaves us with the question that no one can answer for ourselves. We must answer for ourselves. How do you know whether this person will change in light of the red flags that you're seeing? How do you know? How do you know whether you'll save this person, you'll save him, you'll save her? How do you know whether he or she will change? How do you know? And the question is, what if he or she doesn't change? Can you live with him or her as is? That is the $1 million question that no one can answer for you, but that you have to answer for yourself. I want to say this. It is my hope and it's my prayer that you will find the courage to take the hard steps, to take the necessary steps, so that your peace, your purpose, your value, and your person, and all these things that are important to you, they are not trivialized, they are not trampled on, they are not treated like they're not important. Because if those things are happening, trust me, if you're pursuing a relationship that will trivialize those things, that relationship will hurt you, then it will help you. It will damage you, then it will develop you. It will break you, then it will bless you. All right? So I want to close by leaving you with a quote from Maya Angelou. And the quote says this: love is many things. It is varied. But one thing love is not is unsure. If you have some lingering doubts, it may be time to sit and reflect on where those doubts are coming from. And if those doubts about pursuing a relationship with this person is coming from their obvious demonstration of how they are causing you to question your standards and your values and your purpose and your sense of integrity and your sense of individuality, maybe you might want to tell yourself, I need to slow down. And here is something that happens. Sometimes the Spirit of God will be giving us inner impulses and telling us that now is not the time. Please do not ignore, please do not ignore that voice, because it might be costly down the road. Thank you so much for taking time to listen. I hope this word blesses you. And don't, again, share this with someone. It may not specifically relate to where you are at in life, but if you know someone who's going through a situation like this and they need help, and you've been trying to find a way to communicate with them, do this. Share this link with them, share this video with them, and bless them by so doing. In the meantime, I also want to ask you, do me this favor. Click that like button if you haven't done so already. click the subscribe icon and click that bell notification so that every time we produce a content like this, you can get in on what we're sharing. Leave us your comments so we can know what you're thinking in the comment sections below. And I sincerely appreciate you for taking the time to be on here. May God bless you and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you in all of your ways. Grace and peace to you now and always.